I don't know. I told him. And I'll talk to him. Before the meeting, I'll talk to him. Oh, right.
It was in there. I saw it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'll talk to him how to handle that. All right. It is 5:30, so we will now begin our City Commission work study session for June 6th, 2022. Roll call, please.
Mayor Heath,
Present.
Commissioner Hall,
Present.
Commissioner Roberts,
Present.
Commissioner Miller,
Present.
Commissioner Strayer,
Present.
Commissioner Castleberry,
Present.
Commissioner Gauss,
Present.
all commission members present.
Oh. No, it said recording. I heard it.
I did say that.
I know, I just realized. I didn't even look at it. I heard it. I just heard it. Yeah, pretty fun.
There we go.
There we go.
Will you bring my map up there? So our first item for discussion is going to be our need to acquire property adjacent to the tunnel location on South Main. We briefly touched on this back on the 16th. In just a moment, we will have a map up here, which will help facilitate our discussion. There we go. So we shortly will be the owner. We passed a resolution last time to accept, actually acquire with project funds these two properties. This is quite a property, by the way. It goes way back here, quite a substantial piece of property, to allow us to not have to build 10-foot high sheer walls on the two sides of the tunnel when we excavate to get down. Lost it, Michelle.
Okay.
There we go. So this will allow us to lay the banks back, have a park-like terrace setting here, have the ability for barrier-free access down to the tunnel opening on the west side of South Main. On the east side of South Main, not much we can do about the gas station. That would be obviously prohibitively expensive. So there is going to be a wall along that south line, but to the north, both the project would benefit from, and we really kind of need for constructability purposes to acquire 577 South Main. As you can see from the property lines, that in fact encroaches on the trail property already. There's also an outbuilding which is entirely on the trail property, but the principal structure itself is extremely close. It pretty much touches it. Reputedly, back in the day, it was hit during a train derailment, which caused instability of the foundation. So at the point where we're going to excavate anywhere from 10 to 13 feet down, really going to be impossible to save that house. So our private partners have approached the owners. It's a guy and his sister who recently acquired the property after the death of their mother, and have not been successful. I believe that we're going to have to go to using our powers of eminent domain if we're going to acquire this, because it's critical to the constructability of the project to do that. We will attempt to negotiate the fairest possible price we can, but at the point where we go through the condemnation process, that's going to be true cash value. So, you know, like I say, we'll see what we can arrange. The loss or damage out the private partner was not successful in doing that. We have a resolution on tonight's agenda at the end of the agenda, which would give me authority to either acquire it through negotiation or, if necessary, file a complaint for condemnation in circuit court. This is up for discussion at this point to make sure you're comfortable with that. Like I say, really critical to the project that we do acquire that property. So like on the west side, it will allow us to have a gradual terrace transition down to the tunnel level on that north side of the excavation, and have very free access down to the tunnel for folks on the east side of the road. So, important reasons to do it, but I get that it's a touchy subject, and we don't like to go down that path unless we absolutely have to. So open that up for discussion at this point.
Now, it's my understanding that the owner has been offered a substantial amount of money over the market value. Is that true?
He reputedly, I was not party to these discussions, but as they've been relayed to me, he said that he would sell for 3 times the market value. Our assessor has it on the roll right now for about 60,000 and change. I believe he was offered 180 property. I declined. As I understand it, the sister is interested in selling the brothers.
If we did acquire the property through eminent domain, we would pay him the market value. Is that the way that works?
Well, you'd appraise it as part of that process, but one would assume that the appraisal will come out the same as our assessors.
What are some of the safety issues that if we do not acquire this property when it comes to the project? Because the wall has to be built on both sides, right?
So at that point, yeah, you have
You can't see what's coming, or
10 to 13 foot high wall, sheer wall. So first of all, that's immediately adjacent to the foundation of that house, if it can even be built, right? So that is unpleasant for this owner. As it relates to people using the tunnel, however, now it's as though you have a much, much longer tunnel, right? As you approach the tunnel from the east side, you're going into a cavern with 10-foot high walls on either side, or probably 3 times the length that you would otherwise be subject to that condition. So people are going to feel unsafe going in there. You don't have the sense that you can escape it. It's as though you're going into a really, really long tunnel at that point. And I think that will make people fearful trying to use the pedestrian tunnel. That was the condition.
because the tunnel's coming regardless. So it's the fact of the matter is how it's going to be constructed from that corridor heading to the east side. So I don't like this. I don't like government coming in and taking property, you know, but I guess my position is that because I believe from what, you know, talking to the private LLC holder that wants to acquire that property is that he gave him exactly what he wanted initially, and then comes to find out that he kind of took that back, you know, for some reason. So, you know, I just feel like from a safety standpoint and finish the project, that won't people apprehensive to get to the east side, because that's the goal, is to get the east side connected to the west side so kids can bike to Bone Pool. Kids on the west side can bike to the splash pad. Kids, I mean, that's the idea of this whole project. And
I'll link it to Boys and Girls Club.
Boys and Girls Club, and you know, and especially concerning the outhouse is already on the trail property anyway, so that's going to be down anyways. And
And the
So,
garage. The garage
the
and
garage is
and
too.
the outbuilding are both
Yeah, it's
gonna go regardless, they're approaching. But like I say, very likely that the house will be, the foundation will be damaged. It's already damaged, that it won't survive the excavation.
Right.
Would obviously make the project much, much more expensive as well.
So if we don't do these things and they continue with building and something happens to that home, then what happens?
Well, I mean, you could get into all kinds of, you're inviting a lawsuit because it's fairly condition of the house after construction.
Do they live there?
I believe that Mr. Porter has moved in since his mother's death. I don't think he may have been raised there. I don't think he lived that time.
I struggle
The
with
sister
eminent
does.
domain also. The sister does not live there. And the house is owned by both of them.
And the sister wants to sell and the brother does not.
So that's what I've been
that's what-
told.
yeah. Go ahead.
Trying to compose what I want to say here. We all know that housing is a shortage all over the country, but definitely here in Adrian. So my concern is if he lives there and we're putting him out of his home, where is he going to live? And I know that's not technically our problem, but it is my problem. I do feel that it is my problem. We need to make sure he has someplace that's comparable to live. And you know, Kelly, you might be able to speak to this. I know I have friends, and I know some city workers that have people that have looked and looked and looked for housing they can afford. And I would worry that we're going to put someone out on the street because there just isn't a place for him to go.
The flip side of that is if they're gonna offer him $180,000, he'll be able to go find a place.
You would think, but I don't know if you've looked at homes lately. I mean, they're gone, they're sold before I even see the sign up in the yard.
That's true.
To
So,
what extent is relocation part of the process?
Very limited. Relocation generally comes in, if we were to file a condemnation action or an eminent domain action, one of the first things the court is likely to do is order us into a settlement conference, try to work the dispute out amongst ourselves so the judge would not have to issue a decision. We found that to be commonplace, order us into mediation. Most of these cases do settle in the mediation process. Some bigger industrial projects do not. Go to a quick bench trial or so. Typically speaking, in the eyes of the law, relocation is not an element, as harsh as that sounds, in terms of what is the engineering or the practical difficulty, why does the city need it for specific projects, so to speak, and what is the fair market value of that piece of property.
And my hope, of course, is that once he realizes that we're really going to do this, he doesn't have the option of not selling, that the private party offer will sound a lot better. And he has been up to City Hall when that party was approaching him and offering him what they offered. He came up to City Hall and was asking us questions about whether we were going to condemn it. Didn't have an answer for him at that time. And you have to be quite cautious with eminent domain proceedings, if you say the right things at the right time. And so we haven't said anything about him to that point so far, but if you pass the resolution tonight, I will. At that point, you know, he may negotiate more fervently than he was willing to do with private party.
And I guess my feeling is if the private party did not offer him what he offered him, I'd be sitting right there where Mary's at. That'd be my position, because again, it's like, you know, but a fair I mean, we're offering 3 times, somebody offer me 3 times what my house is worth, I'll sell it to them right now. Simple as this.
Well, it's the amount that he asked.
What was that? Right.
That's the amount. that he
Right, and
asked.
so, but if that wasn't the case, then I think that this would be a lot more tougher decision for me when it comes to taking somebody's property, because again, government, I like it as small as possible, but in this case, I the offer was very fair, and from what I understand, it's exactly what he asked for. And from a safety standpoint for that corridor, our goal is to get that trail extended all the way to the east side and through those neighborhoods. As we've already made a significant capital investment on that side of town, and I'd like to see those talks continue. That's where I'm at with it, is I'm okay with it because I think it's fair what the offer was.
Well, John has already said that if we were to have to go into court, there'd be mediation, and we'd try to come to a deal. We've already tried that. I mean, we've been working, we took that step long ago, and I think that we've been very fair with him. So I don't have any problem moving forward with this at all.
I don't either.
I don't feel like we're putting anybody out, and I agree with you. If somebody wants to pay me 3 times the value of my house, let's sit down tomorrow.
For the prestige title.
I think there's something to be said about what Mary
Oh, for sure.
Commissioner Roberts has said as well. I grew up in the house that my dad grew up in. When that house sold, it was somewhat heart-wrenching. I'm glad to know who owns it and that I get to still be a little piece of that. And then I run the community homeless shelter, so putting someone out in the street is horrific to me because I see that day in, day out. So I hope there's something that we can do to make sure we're sure that that doesn't happen to this gentleman. So I can understand his trepidation about leaving the house that, because he was raised in his parents, that's a piece of your, family history. I don't know who lived there before his mom. Is it, generations of family? That's a hard pill to swallow. But I also am a crime victim advocate by trade, and seeing those tunnel walls makes me very nervous just about what could happen and excuse me, how do we make positive change so nothing, how do we assure that we keep everyone safe is also something that we have to consider. So the pros and cons are pretty heavy weighing either way.
And I've been, struggling with it for a while, but upon finding out that there's, an issue already with this foundation, and now, literally that's all I'm thinking. Oh God, we put this wall up, we get in a lawsuit because we damaged the house, or the house falls down, God forbid. I have those concerns now. So like we offer, this amount of money, or, we go to this route, and hopefully in mediation, like we come to an agreement and he can walk away and have a house. I'm worried he's not gonna have a house anyways, because when they go to build this wall, what's the chance that possibly he's gonna lose that house? And that's one of my fears. I will tell you that I've had quite a few calls in the last couple of weeks of concern already on the trail of safety of people that live right by the trail because of the 2 walls down by Division Street. Those aren't even that big if you go by there. I just drove by again today to look at it. That one wall is pretty small, and the other wall though is pretty substantial. Those houses are having trouble. There's people doing drugs. There's a lot of illicit behavior going on because they think those walls are just enough, even though you can see them right from Division. Those walls are giving that illusion, and those houses are having problems because of their children are witnessing things right there on the trail, right off of that. And it's only where those 2 walls are. They're not really having trouble past that. And so there must be something that people think they're hiding there or whatever. So what's it going to do when it's even bigger? And they're worried about it. They've brought those concerns. They're worried about it being too tunnel, and they won't want to send their kids down there or even go down there themselves because of that.
Are the problems at night or during the day?
Oh, even during the day. Yeah, no, they're during the day, a lot of them.
That's what it was. Maybe
Yeah, I mean,
a
I've had
lighting issue or
Pictures
something.
sent to me from one of the residents, somebody shooting up middle of the day, right on the wall. So, yeah, because the house is above it, like, so it's right there, but those houses their kids are witnessing things they shouldn't be. And there's been some vandalism going on, there's been some other things, and they think it's because it's just that loss of line of sight. And so, you know, the more it can be lit and you can see down in there, even if you're driving down Main Street, if you don't have two tunnels and you're coming, you know, down Main Street south and you can look down into that, that just gives that, it deters more activity. I feel like the two, so, you know, I've been caught, but I'm very concerned about safety, especially because they are having trouble just a few blocks away where there are two walls, basically.
Part of the design idea for the tunnel though is that the entrance will be wide, correct me if I'm wrong. And so it sort of speaks to what the mayor is saying, that you will be able to see into the tunnel.
Yeah, I mean, the goal is to make it seem not that far across, like you're not getting into something that you have to travel a long way and reach the other side. Yeah, you're right, whereas we're trying to make it wide and flat so that it has that perception. But if we were to have to build canyon walls leading up to it.
You hide a lot of stuff.
Hide a lot of stuff, and once you commit to it, you don't have a way out, except the way you came, or all the way through.
I believe we need to move forward. You know, I think talking about both sides is very, very important, but I believe we need to move on it. I think that making the fair offer is what makes a difference for me. And I think also the second thing is when John mentioned there might be negotiations that happen once the judge says, you go talk about this for a little bit. We might give them another chance to say, this is really happening. We're moving forward. And how many houses in the city of Adrian are appraised at $55,000 or $60,000? There's quite a few, but how livable are they? And what kind of money can you put into it to make it better? You want something as equal as that house? There's some on the market, you can't live in them. 50 or 60,000. Most of them are fixer-uppers.
Yeah, he'll get at least 2 more opportunities to negotiate. I would expect. I think that first of all, I'm going to negotiate.
That's very fair.
But I think Mary's concerns are I understand what she's saying here. I really do. And I think that if there wasn't the offer on the table that, and the city's position was, we're gonna go take it and you're gonna get what you give us, then I think I'd be a lot different right now at the table.
Absolutely.
That's right. I'm comfortable with it. I don't like it, but I think that it has to be done, and that's for the overall project.
We are taking a vote tonight.
You do have a
It's
resolution.
the last one on the agenda.
Because we really got to move, you know, with the project schedule, we really got to know how it impacts the design if we were to have to. We want to go out for bid in August. We have to change the design. Get your blessing to acquire the property. One way or the other, if you bless it, we'll acquire the property. With that as an assumption. Anything else on that? Not, I put Brenda's little taste of Texas back on here. I mean, I think it was pretty clear from the motion to recommend approval, not getting any money to move it even last time. What decision is on this, but we do need to make a recommendation to the Liquor Control Commission one way or the other. So I just wanted to confirm that you would like us to put a resolution similar to the one we did for Bob Evans on recommending that deny this. Fair conclusion?
I'm
That's
comfortable.
what I would conclude.
Okay, well, it's easy. Number 3, mobile food vending fees. Back there, Jay?
Yeah, I'm back here.
Jay wants to speak to you about mobile food vending fees.
So thanks for the opportunity to speak tonight to everyone. I appreciate that. We've had some some experience over the last few weeks through the market and through First Fridays. We've had a little bit of participation, primarily it's been coming from veterans, and in the resolution, veterans don't pay a fee for their food trucks. So we've been thankful for that because we've been getting their participation. And we've also been getting a lot of pushback from other vendors that have been coming to the events. The fee is $500 for seasonal. That's the most cost-effective way for them to do it. So they can participate in multiple events. But that's high compared to other communities and what they pay for similar events.
It's 500 for non.
For non-city residents, yes. And that's what most of them have been. I can only think of one we won't want to talk about right now. And so during that process, I've been trying to gauge where the feelings are with mobile food vending with the vendors to start. And what I'm primarily looking at is doing a test this year for the farmers market and First Fridays combined. I'm not looking at setting up on a random Tuesday or anything like that. So basically those events, so you got 17 markets left and you would have 4 First Fridays left, 21 events left. Looking at a $200.50 fee for just those events. Now on the flip side, let's talk about businesses, right? Because that's our primary concern. How is it impacting businesses, or is it impacting businesses? Now I haven't had a chance to talk to the majority of them. I only talked to one in particular real quick Saturday morning after First Friday. I happened to stop in, get a beverage and say, how was First Friday? And they said, great. It was a little slow. We saw that. It was a little slow getting people to the event, but then afterwards they were busy all night long. And I go, good, because we had food trucks and I wanted to make sure it wasn't negatively impacting your business. And there was no comment on negative impact. So again, that was only just one anecdotal conversation, but we had three beverage trucks. So we had a lemonade truck, a bubble tea truck, and an icy truck, as well as an actual food truck at the market. And then there was another hot dog truck behind Nobles. And so they didn't see any impact to their sales or noticeable impact. They didn't say anything. And now that was just one. I didn't talk to every single one, but I'm happy to answer any questions or concerns you might have or the reasoning behind it.
Jay, with these reduced fees, so the new fee schedule would be reduced fees. How would they affect other events other than the farmers market and, the Adrian City Market and First Friday? So if Juneteenth wanted to have a food truck at their event downtown.
So Juneteenth is a great conversation, right? Juneteenth would have to be designated special event through resolution. And then if they wanted to have a food truck, they would have to go in the designated areas. And I believe it'd be $125 for them to have that.
But the 125, if you remember, we established in such a way that 100 of it is rebated to the event organizer. So the fee that we're charging is 25. And the event organizer can make whatever deal they want with the vendor for 100. But the proposal is to create a special category of fee that is just for the market.
Yes.
That's the $250 fee that Jay is talking about. And likewise, we have a resolution on the agenda tonight about this.
Will not affect the veterans.
Nope, there's still no charge. Nope. And that's been a great addition for us because they're able to move quickly, get their permit. They have annual permits and it's great for us as well. So
What's the process if an organization wanted to have it declared a city event? How would they do that?
Well, you designate special events in your resolution as well. So we did that. We added one last year for Blue Jean Ball. So it must be a resolution.
So they got to get ahead of it. I mean, it takes a little bit of time for them to say, okay, we want to have this event at the location. It needs to be designated as a city event. So if we need a resolution, they got to anticipate this a few months in advance.
Yeah, I mean, depending on where they have the event, right? The problem, the issue we were addressing with Blue Jean Ball was that they planned it for Love Easter, which is not an area that you can otherwise have food trucks unless you a special event. If you want to have your event in farmer's market, you can have food trucks regardless. There's a fee established for farmer's market food trucks.
Okay, so I'm thinking about, I asked about Juneteenth. It's going to be on Maumee Street. Should that have been designated? I mean, when we knew that location, should that we have voted on designating that as a city event?
If that's their plan, yes, it would be good.
Well, I don't know if it's their plan. I'm just asking hypothetically if that's what they wanted to do. They're going to be down there from 2 to 9, I think.
Yeah, the only opportunity, I mean, if you know, are you planning to have food trucks?
Not sure.
Not sure. I
It's
mean, if
still
that,
registered.
okay. I mean, if that's an idea, and if the commission is okay with that, I mean, we could amend the resolution that we're passing tonight
we
to
have to do it tonight.
designate
Yeah.
Juneteenth as a special event as well.
You called Jeanette during the break?
Well, I guess this might be a discussion for another time, but that begs the question, is every event that comes downtown a special city event? I mean, why is, Arlish has been around, so we designated that one. Last year we did Boys and Girls Club. What about the Croswell? I mean, is that a special city event? I mean, what is our criteria for making it a special event where we're going to allow them to be considered a city event?
Well, and I think some of the difference with that as well is that like, at least in my mind, is that like Juneteenth is open to the public. There's no ticket, there's no cost for like Great Big Night for Croswell. You have a ticket, Blue Jean Ball, you have a ticket. At least that's my thinking on it.
And it's always been the city parks too. It's been a Chelsea Park.
Yeah,
the last-
And so in my thought process is if they're downtown and it's open to the public, free city event, then it's like open to anybody. It's not ticketed. I guess in my mind, that could qualify. Like you can walk through Arlish, it's not ticketed, I don't know. That's at least my thinking on it.
I think that's something that we need
Yeah.
to state.
Mhm.
That this is the reason why this is considered a city
Yep.
event in this business.
Yep.
And I don't know if that's a policy or whatever it might be, but I think we need to have that clearly stated so people don't look at us and go, why this one and not that one?
So a process on becoming a designated city event, that's what you're asking, right?
I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
I hate the idea of another process, but at least an understanding of what is acceptable and what is accepted and what's not.
I don't want to speak for my board, but it may be something that would want to go through Main Street and DDA where we could weigh in to kind of help give you some guidance in that, since we're really kind of that overseeing entity for some of those events.
I mean, the Blue Jean Ball was a big event.
I know.
Well, that was
That was
kind
a
of,
special.
well, they had already planned that, and then lo and behold, it wasn't.
I'll have an answer for you in 2 seconds. She's typing right now.
What wasn't allowed to say?
The food trucks for Blue Jean Ball.
No, we did
because it
not.
wasn't. So we,
Said no.
She told you no.
yeah, I think in recognition of the fact that
It's not
it was
interesting.
already all planned out.
Right.
We added that
That
as
was
a way to
special.
let them go ahead with their
That's
event.
fine. This
I don't think they
this-
ever plan to do it again, so you probably can take them off the list for consistency, so.
As the mayor just said, they've responded and they're not going to have.
That's what, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
For Juneteenth.
They're encouraging them to be downtown.
Businesses, so.
I have no problem with tonight's resolution and to try and get more business to our farmers market. I think it's a great idea, great incentive.
And from being at the farmer's market, the last couple of city markets, the last couple of weeks, it's just a different element and I felt like it drew more people and I don't feel like it was just because it was the first event, but having more food trucks there. I mean, I left and did some other things and came back because I knew the food truck was there and wanted to eat lunch there and was back at the city market and then ended up buying more things while I was there. But I came back and I think that is a draw that people will possibly go do something else or come back, but people see it more when there's those food trucks and, you know, and just having the one, it felt kind of like a letdown the last couple of weeks, when I've been there, and I just feel like it gives it more of that focus, like you're trying to go for, and just really draws more people in, and at different times of the day. So anything we can do to encourage more.
Okay.
I'm good with the two.
Great. Last scheduled discussion item is maybe not the most optimally timed time to talk about it, but it's Dara operating hours. So when we established the social drinking district, which we call Dara, we had to enact a management plan that we file with the Liquor Control Commission. And that has the operating hours for the district. So currently, those hours end at 10 p.m. As I recall, you all had quite a discussion about when to end it. And, I recall one commissioner saying that nothing good happens after 10 p.m. so it was. Jay is here on this subject as well, as an advocate for extending the hours to 11 p.m. You want to explain why that would be?
Sure. So wearing my other hat now as the Main Street Director. We've been having a lot of conversations about First Fridays and other events, Artelicious coming up, and potential for a New Year's Eve event. As you look at the crowds on First Fridays in particular, we have a band that plays till about 10 o'clock. So there are people mulling around in the streets, carrying beverages, essentially not following the rules of the Dara, which can be problematic for the Liquor Control Board. So what we're looking to do is the band will continue to stop at 10 p.m. The goal is to extend that 1 hour just on Fridays and Saturdays where those events may take place. So we go from noon until 11 p.m. on Fridays and Saturdays, with the exception of New Year's Eve. Assuming that this event takes place, it would go till 1 a.m. on New Year's Eve. So you would actually go to 1 a.m. New Year's Day, so that morning. To capture that, so we're well within the rules of the Liquor Control Board and go forward. This is just discussion today. I have to take it to the DEA board because they're a contributing member with that discussion as well. So I'm happy to answer any questions or concerns. And for the record, the incident that happened over the weekend happened between 1:30 and 3:30, not between 10 and 11. So, but it all adds up. But they can also drink, you know, I think personally, whether they drink at the bar or outside of the bar, it could probably still happen.
I believe they went home and drank some more and came back down.
Well, I think that I was the commissioner that said nothing good happens after 10, and that was the old man in me. My youngest daughter corrected me the next day. And I think the Dara district has been such a success, and extending it an hour is no brainer. And
I think it's great. I think a lot of things, good things happen after 10. I don't know.
I don't know, I'm usually in bed.
Well, speaking
They
for
just
the,
don't happen
other- speaking as the other old man in the room, my concern when we first did it was starting too early. I, want to start at noon, I prefer 4 o'clock, but it's worked out well. So I certainly don't have the issues of extending it on the other end.
I meant to look this up earlier and I did just now, but Toledo's is till 1 a.m. and Sylvania's is till midnight. And Toledo has expanded theirs to other areas because it's been so successful. And Toledo can handle it, I think.
In a small straw poll today, we were having a conversation about it. I don't believe there are any establishments that stay open past midnight anyway. So I think that's kind of a good fit, stopping outside at 11 and inside the stop at midnight. That way there's no concern about anyone being with a beverage at midnight outside and causing other problems. Excellent, thank you.
So that'll come back. We'll bring you some DDA, some like mine. We'll bring you back revised management plan next time. Mayor, that's all the scheduled items that I had.
Well, so there is something else. So there are a few people here tonight from that comprised a committee from the Human Relations Committee and a commission, sorry. And originally, we didn't think we were gonna have a pre-meeting because we were gonna be in a different discussion tonight. And so there was a little debacle with getting them on the agenda for tonight. And so now we have that time, so we can have that discussion now. So I'm going to introduce Chair Bernard and Commissioner Ashley Cavazos Frank, and they're going to discuss, and and Commissioner Joaquin Ramos. And they're going to discuss with you, I'll just get a preface it really quickly. There was an incident that happened in November at the Hampton Inn where the police were called and they came in and there was a complaint that was filed with the Human Relations Commission of bias, of, saying that they treated us poorly. This is not how you do business. And, and they brought the complaint to us. So we followed the protocol on the Human Relations Commission of investigating it and where that goes. And, they went out and talked to the Hampton Inn. They've spoken with the complainants and, they've done all the due diligence. We've talked about it several times in the Human Relations Commission meeting, and the committee was comprised, I do believe, of just, was anybody else on your committee besides you? Three?
Just
Three or three, okay. Because I obviously excused myself and was not going to be on that committee because honestly, when it occurred, the call came to me that night, on Saturday night, the call when it was happening. I actually received the call because of it, because there was a local person that knew the people that were trying to stay at the hotel and they said there was no room and that, but yet they were letting other people in. And so this is what was occurring that night. And the local person knew how to get a hold of me and called me. So I actually already knew about it before I came to the Human Relations Commission. I brought it to them, but because I had been a little bit involved with it, I recused myself from that and let the committee that decided to be on that committee do their due diligence. So they're gonna talk to you about that now.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Andrea Bernard, and I am the chair of HRC. We have been working very diligently since January. We had 6 months to get the investigation done. This is our subcommittee, Commissioner Frank, Commissioner Reynolds. And what we have done is we've met with all of the parties that were involved. It was 2 ladies at the Hampton Inn. And one of the persons that was a witness was one of our commissioners. So we've kept him out of everything except him to give a statement. So I'm going to ask Commissioner Frank to tell you our process of what we did, what we actually.
We received written statements from both complainants that were at the hotel. We made phone calls and interviewed both of them about what their experience was and what they believe the discrimination was. Or discrimination based on race is what we were investigating for specifically. We then met with the hotel owner and did an interview with him. And we happened to be right at shift change, so we were able to interview the employee that was there at the time too. And we were able to review the surveillance footage from the lobby of the hotel to see the full incident, and the audio was good enough that we were able to hear what they were saying and be able to read body language and stuff like that, which is really important for interpersonal interaction like that. We did get the body cam from the Adrian Police Department. Both officers had body cams on, and we were able to hear the dispatch 911 call from the hotel employee when that was made. And we were able to tell from the surveillance video, like when that call came in, what wasn't done, what steps were skipped. We did make that phone call.
Ms.
No,
Frank,
that isn't here.
Would you mind speaking up just a little bit for me? I'm having trouble hearing you. I'm sorry.
Sorry, when I get
Thank you.
nervous, I talk really fast.
That's okay. I can understand fast, I just can't hear.
So there's a summary of the surveillance in this report. We'll give the paper one and then we'll make sure that we email an electronic one so you guys can see, just kind of transcribed what the surveillance footage showed. We made sure to be as objective as
Objective.
possible. We weren't going in with an agenda to look for and pick apart people's behavior. We just wanted to observe. I worked at APS in the special education department, so observing and objective reports is kind of something I know how to do. We spoke with Chief Emmerich on his interpretation of the events, and he kind of gave us some feedback on whether he felt the call was justified in that situation. And that was part of our report as well. Yeah, that's pretty much the summary of it, and then you guys will get the electronic version so you guys can review.
And the other thing is, Commissioner Reynolds, he interviewed the witness. And so we stayed away from the conversation with our commissioner because we wanted to be objective. And we wanted him to be able to speak with him and then give us a report rather than us all interviewing at the same time, intimidation. You know, so the other part of this is we came to a conclusion. I'm not going to give that conclusion tonight, but what I'm going to do is it's in the report. And what we have done is we put together what the facts are. My background is criminal justice. I worked in the prison system for 17 years. And so facts is what I deal with. And we also deal with racism because I'm an activist in terms of making sure that people are treated kindly, especially in our city. One of the things that we're looking at as a team is trying to make sure that people that visit our city do not have bad experiences and we don't see about it and deal with it. So these two ladies come from outside of Adrian and they saw discrimination in a different way because they were experiencing. So what we have to do, looking at all the facts that were presented to us, we came to a conclusion, and I won't tell you what our conclusion is. I'm going to let you read it and look at all the documentation. We have the report from the hotel. We had good rapport with the general manager. He allowed us all to see the videotape, and he didn't have to do that, but he let us see that. He also allowed me to interview him. Both of us interviewed him and answered all of our questions. What he could not answer is for the corporation. And so he had to go back to the corporation and tell them what needs to change today. He couldn't wait till the end of our investigation. One of the things is how people is treated if they have a reservation and they come to the hotel and you say, I don't have a room for you, but you have rooms that are not clean, or you have double booking and different things that's happening. So what he's put in place is some of the things that will prevent this from ever happening again. And had the staff actually called him, the general manager, rather than 911, then we wouldn't be standing here tonight, is what his report says. So what I wanted to do is make sure that we're on time in terms of the investigation. We only had till June to have it completed, and we completed our portion of it. And what I wanted to do is be here tonight to give it to you, not to necessarily report to you, but we will be able to answer any questions that you have. We will make sure that you get it. I'm going to send it to the mayor and administrator, and so that they can send it out to all of you that don't have your email addresses. And would be better for you to look it over. If you have any questions, this team will be able to answer those questions for you. And I know you won't be able to put it on the agenda right away, but whenever you do, we will let the other people know. So what our recommendation is also going to be is that we sit down and explain to the general manager at the hotel what our findings were and our recommendations are for his staff and also for the corporation, because they are in Adrian and they service people that are coming from all over. So, you know, we have a lot of events, and that evening they had a soccer team, a group of sports people there. So it filled up quite fast. So you gotta have staff that are gonna be able to work with whoever comes into your facility, especially if they've had a reservation either the night before or the day before. Doesn't matter. If they have a reservation, there has to be a system in place that operates in such a way that people are satisfied and they don't walk away thinking they've been discriminated against. Okay, so that particular night, they pointed out to us that they were the only minorities at that hotel that evening trying to register. So immediately they thought it was racial discrimination.
Excuse me,
Yes,
you say they,
it's two ladies.
the two ladies said that they were the only
ones that they saw come into the hotel to register, and some people received a room while they were standing there. So they're thinking that I have a reservation, why aren't I getting it? Yeah. So there was no other minority other than our witness. And they were his guests in this community, and they've been coming in and out. So they've been experiencing some things, and they said those things to us as well. But that's not what we were investigating. We were only investigating the incident that happened on November the 6th, and we had to keep it focused. And it's not hard to jump to another conclusion sometimes, but once we get the facts, and that's what we did. We looked at the facts, we went over them back and forth, emailing each other, talking, having FaceTime, having Zoom time, and also meeting and making sure that we give a good report. So that's what I'm going to give to you all. I'm going to send it to the mayor. I do have a copy that I'm going to give to her, but I'm also going to email it. So if you have any questions.
And I think for this, why it got to this point, and why the complaint came to the Human Relations Commission is, correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding, and I've actually had one conversation with one of the complainants, but is that because of 911 was called, just because that was the immediate reaction to call 911, because the person said they felt threatened, and the fact that they called 911 and they're when there hadn't been much interaction yet to that point, does that make sense? And so I think that is what escalated it to this point and why they brought the complaint, because, you know, that's part of the Human Relations Commission to take, you know, complaints where people feel they've been discriminated. And that's one of the duties of the Human Relations Commission. And it is literally the fact that 911 was called and that the police, you know, came in and so it wasn't anything against APD, it was not anything like that. It was just the sheer fact that that was the first reaction to call 911 in the situation, and that's why they felt discriminated. And that was at least that was what I was told and how I took it. Yes?
And with the police thing, to add to that, this was also one of the witnesses that come in later, one that recused himself on our board for more context. He had reached out to the mayor, as you heard, reached out to Chief Emmerich before the police got there. So would it have been different if he hadn't, or if he wasn't relatively well known in this community? That also brought a lot of concern to us.
Did the individuals have a reservation that night?
They had a reservation, yes.
Okay.
They had a reservation, but the staff said there was a glitch in their system when the people got there. However, they still had other people come in behind that they saw them give keys to, even though one was a group and they had already pre-registered them. They just had the keys. You know how they do in some hotels, they know a whole group is coming, they have all the keys ready.
Yep.
They have all the keys ready, and one person comes to the desk and get all the keys, and then they pass them out. We saw that on the video. But also, we have to take a look at what is happening in the minds of the individuals that visit our city. And so what we have to do is dispel some of the erroneous, in my mindset, things that people think happen here when it doesn't necessarily happen the way they put it, the way they're feeling. So aside from feelings, we come up with facts, but we come up with solutions as well. And that's the most important part of our job, is to come up with a way that this never happens again. And that we pass this information on to other businesses and other areas so that that doesn't happen again, especially with our district.
It sounds like you've taken a very professional approach to this. And what I'm hearing from you is that the general manager of the business was very cooperative with you.
And what happened is, my thought is, if you want to know the truth, you talk to the people that were involved. And or those people that have control over those that had the power that evening. So going to talk to the manager, the general manager, was one of the first things we did. And the reason he cooperated so well is because we didn't come in indicting him. You know, you can't get a solution that you need to have or get facts from people and they cooperate with you if you go in with guns blazing. I shouldn't have said that word. So, but anyway, the most important part of this job, it wasn't hard for us because we were looking for facts. When you look for facts and you talk to people and you put them at ease, then they will say things to you that they may not want it to, including the employee. She said things to us that made us know immediately where her mindset, but I couldn't prove it. That's the problem. You gotta be able to prove it.
Can you tell us who made the 911 call? Was it the complainant?
It was the staff person, and at that particular evening, and what they had in place is one employee is running the whole entire business. There were no other staff persons there. Now, she's running the desk, she's got a group of I don't even know how many students came in, but people come in all evening. And she started at 3 or 3:30 her job. And so she's relieving and saying that it was not good. It was a good, not having staff. And so if you have no staff person or one person, make decisions when they don't know what to do. And she obviously didn't have a clue of how to handle the situation that she had faced. But it does not give her an excuse for not being able to have another way to handle the situation. And so we are also recommending, and I can tell you this, to let her and the hotel know that anyone making a 911 call, they jeopardize the community if they are lying about it. They're not telling truth. We have a 911 callers set up so that we help people that are in distress, not people that are manufacturing things that they can handle on their own. So that's where we're at with this particular investigation. So if you have any other questions, I can stay around a little bit longer. And we can answer you. And if not, we can come back at another time. I know you're gonna probably put it on the agenda. And you may decide not to after you look it over. You may decide to just give us the go ahead to finalize the report. And that means that we will be sending letters out to the hotel after going back and interviewing and giving information to the general manager. And also, I would like to send a letter to the corporation so that they know how we handle here in Adrian that, and what we recommend. And we're recommending some kinds of training.
Of course, one of the first things we'll do is be sending you all the information, our reports.
And know what we did.
Thank you. I got something.
Go ahead.
Trash. Fun stuff. So I know we got downtown on the agenda tonight. Myself getting involved in real estate, I've been inundated by phone calls I'm not looking like that because he's gonna have to help educate me here a little bit. So my thinking was we negotiated a contract that it would be, going to totes. It would be single, double, or triplex mandated. And so what I've gotten 2 realtors and now I have 2 citizens coming because July 1st is coming and the realtors one of the realtors has a quadplex, 4 units, and he's been notified that he has to get totes. And, you know, I go, I assumed it was, then he said the city told him it was 6 units on up, you can get a dumpster, or 5? 5. Okay. I guess I'm gonna take the temperature of my colleagues in here again, and this is not affect me because I own 0 quadplexes. Mine are all duplexes. So this is no conflict for me, but, you know, understanding that, I think that if you have 4 units, I think that that is suffice enough to have a dumpster, because if not, you're gonna have tenants responsible by dragging the totes out to the curb. You know, whether it be recycling or trash. Have you got anybody reach out to you about this? Because I know you get a lot more emails and calls than we do. So, you know, their concern is that their tenants aren't gonna be able to take the trash. They're not gonna drag the totes out. They're used to going to put in the dumpster, so then they're gonna have trash all over their, you know, whether they have a bay where they store them. Storage wasn't an issue for them. It was more of, all right, can I count on my tenants to take my trash out, you know, or take their trash out? And they were not confident with that. So I guess my question is what would be the process? Obviously, all your opinions, you know, has to weigh in on this, but I'd like to see that go on 4 on up instead of 5, because there is, I don't know how many roughly, but I know there's at least 3 that I know are off the hand, because I did look at 2 of them, but they already sold. But and changing that ordinance to 4 instead of 5, so we can accommodate instead of going from 5 on up, it's essentially decreasing to 1 unit, so these landlords can bank and make sure that they're not, you know, their totes aren't falling over or trash is in the yards and whatnot. So I guess before we even get moving on that, what are your guys' thoughts?
Substantially changes the cost for them as well. So having a dumpster for a 4-unit building versus 4 totes. In there, I got the same complaints, Gordon, as we were at a meeting of landlords, and they were not happy about this. And so the cost of having their dumpster and then having 4 totes, there's a substantial difference in that cost. So they were pretty frustrated with that as well. And what are they gonna do with 4 totes and 8 recycling bins, and where do you put those? There was a lot of questions about that stuff, and they were very frustrated. So I can understand having a dump. When they kind of shared what the cost was, it was very understandable to have a dumpster rather than 4 totes.
Well, the 2 I talked to, it wasn't even about cost. It was more about just feasibility of making sure that the tenants drag the tote out, you know, when they're not used to it, you know, and I guess I look at it as a triplex, you know, you can get a big house and have 3 units in it, because I know we have a few of them, but when you get to be 4plex, those are more of boxes, more so 2 here, or 2 down and 2 up, you know, kind of. So I view that more as an apartment complex more than a 4-unit piece of real estate. So, and I would not want to go on a 3, because I think a triplex, I mean, that's individual families, but when you get to be 4, that's more of an apartment complex, you know, in my eyes. And so the 2 I talked to it wasn't even about cost. It was about making sure there's not trash in their yard from.
So that was the other thing. It was about, we were talking about like keeping their area clean. If people aren't taking their trash out or taking it to the curb, what does that smell like? What happens when it overflows, and who's responsible, and who knows whose tote is which? And they had a.
Right, because my rentals, I've always bought totes for my tenants. I don't want trash in my yard, so I want to make sure that's gonna be clean. So I from the get-go, I've always bought it for them. But once you get to 4, it's like, you know, again, for the record, I do not have any 4 units. I have duplexes. So I just want your guys' thoughts on that. What do you guys think about that? It's not a drastic change, but I think it will help people that understand that, you know, again, tenants, we got to make sure they do certain things, and dragging it out to the street on Monday night is they're not used to it. Will it happen?
I don't have a problem with it. And I understand what you're saying about the tenants taking it out, but my concern is we signed a contract.
So,
And can we just change our contract?
well, so a few things. So Matt and I had occasion to speak about this afternoon. So somebody had come in to see me, and then I was aware of your meeting that you had with the landlords as well. There's 40 or so 4plexes that we have in our system. that, you know, to the point of the contract, Stevens just picks up what we tell them to pick up. So if we want to call off those 40 customers, that's fine with Stevens. But we set a rate based on the expectation that there would be those 40.
Right.
So 4 times that, you know, buildings. And of course, when Stevens doesn't pick them up, then we save money as well. So the difference is about $12,000. Not a budget buster. In a future year, we wanted to raise the 240 to 242. That would make up the difference. It's a small amount, and there's really enough contingency in the budget that we could cover it if you wanted to make that change. It's an ordinance change. So right now, the ordinance, and has for a long time, says that anybody who has a 4-unit or less residential property has to subscribe to trash service. They don't all. So we're learning through this process of the ones that haven't. Some of them have dumpsters, some of them don't. Now, there's different ways that it could be treated. I mean, some might want it. Right? If you don't subscribe to the trash service, your town's aren't going to get recycling. Right? If all you've got is a dumpster out there, whereas our service includes the recycling codes as well. So you could have an opt-out process for 4 units where the owner wanted it, they could have it. If they didn't, dumpster, assuming, you know, if they're properties that never had a dumpster, we would want to have some consideration, I think, to whether there's a place for dumpster on that site.
Yep.
You know, and any commercial business that wants to have a dumpster, we require them to close that dumpster. So it's not a blank for the neighbors. So it might be a thing where if you're opting out and you don't already have another means of pickup, that, you know, that's subject to review. You have to have an appropriate place to put a dumpster property if you want to opt out. But, you know, it is doable. It's not a huge number. As I said, it's like $12,000 a year in terms of the differential that we would lose in revenue that we wouldn't be able to make up from savings, charges. But it would be, you know, we'd have to amend our ordinance.
If somebody opts out, Greg, then it's on them to hire a company, then get their own dumpster.
Correct.
It'd be like private, it'd be like
Yeah,
businesses. So, yeah.
So if we allow this, we have to, as the city, we're taking on $12,000 of the total cost of trash for the rest of the city residents, because we're not spreading it out to everybody else, correct?
Yeah, I mean, that 12,000 represents, and that is on the call, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but that number represents the portion of the administrative costs and the other services that we envision spreading to those customers who would now no longer be customers. We, like I said, we could cover it if that was desired to. And if it was an opt-out thing, it presumably wouldn't be all 40 of those buildings that would opt out, some percentage. Probably not.
So you would, okay. That's why I apologize, I've been so busy. I was gonna talk to you, you know, if you call about this, because I was just, but today I got the 3rd phone call, so I'm like, I'm gonna bring it up. We have time. So, you know, I didn't realize that we got to make up the 12,000 per year either. That you know, that's another component of it, because again,
And my concern is, like you said, like where the dumpster is gonna go. 'Cause
Yeah.
some of those properties, I'd be a little concerned.
44 plexes at Adrian?
I can't
Matt,
believe we
am
have
I
that
right
many.
about that? It's 40. Are there 40 customers that are in fourplexes or 40 different fourplexes?
There's 42 fourplexes.
Wow.
Where are they hiding?
Summer houses.
you're a landlord, aren't you?
I have a triplex.
Yeah,
And
you're
my,
good to go.
my only question is, that I'll shift just for a second. I still am going to opt out because I've talked to my renters, they're little bag people and we'll just we'll want one or two of each. And we can opt out, still pay the price we're going to pay, but we will have one trash receptacle and one recycling for the house.
Yeah, you don't have to have all three, you're entitled to all three, you're paying for all three.
I feel that this, for me, I think this is something that would really help out maybe 40–50% of those people that are having those quads, but I'm not sure that we should take the financial burden. I know that seems like a small amount of money, but it's something we can consider the next time we do a contract. Definitely.
Yeah, I agree. So we had people say that they only have a small bag of trash in their home and they still have to pay that much.
Yeah.
Just because.
And I didn't realize that we had to make up the cost. That's one thing I guess I should.
Well, we have to make up the cost because we already set the rate
Right.
based on an expectation that we have X number of customers. We could change that by, passing another resolution, but presumably you don't want to do that this year.
Well, we could change it now.
You could change it next year.
Yeah. Well, I was looking at you, Steve.
And all the downtown apartments all have dumpsters in the back.
Well, downtown is what we're about to address tonight. So the four quadrants of the four corners are now going to be in the same position that that residential is. They will be mandated to pay for trash service, and they'll have access to the dumpsters that are in the public parking lots. That's the second reading ordinance that you have. Some of them have, they may not be apartments, but some downtown properties where they have private property, a lot of downtown buildings don't have any place where they can put anything, even if they wanted to, because they don't have any private property that's not occupied as a building. But some do, 7, I think, have dumpsters, 7 properties downtown have dumpsters. We assume those will go away. Cyrus is a better deal.
And my building's been vacant for 4 years. I've paid for trash all 4 years in a dumpster. We're still renovating those apartments. And because of the pandemic and everything else, we haven't gotten those apartments finished. And, I've been paying for a trash dumpster.
Well, if you were a $600 a year person, then your rate's gonna go down. If you were a 300, I don't remember what it was. Basically, what's everybody gonna pay now?
The rate would be $440 a year.
Yeah, and that's like we talked about before. Our conclusion was that's, is everybody paying based on their use? No, but is it a good deal for everybody? Yes. You couldn't get a dumpster for that.
All right, I got one more thing. Pickleball courts. I am being
Me too.
approached, we'll call it. About starting that.
Yeah, right.
Me too.
And so I just want Jeremiah's on the line, but maybe you can give us a quick update.
Yeah, last I talked to Jeremiah, so, what we found, the original idea was to resurface the old ice rink for around $75,000. So the problem with that idea was that whereas ice rink wants to be very flat and hold water, pickleball court does not want to hold water. And the ice rink holds water. And so there had to be a way to cause it to shed water to make it appropriate for a racket sport. And so we've talked to Jeremiah, talked to lots of different potential vendors about different approaches, overlays. Nobody would warranty the work given the condition of what was underneath it. It wasn't meant for that purpose. So he had Krieghoff give him an estimate of what it would cost to do it right, to prepare the surface underneath, and put an appropriate surface above it. And that number was $275,000, so $200,000 over the foot. At that point, I said to Jeremiah, well, we really should look at other locations, because I guarantee you, you could build a pickleball court on virgin soil for a lot, probably half that. And pretty agrees with that. So he's set about looking for other locations where they might be. As of our last conversation, which I believe was last week, had not come up with one. He and I talked about a location at Heritage Park where the soccer fields have been. You gotta have some amount of parking there, right? You can't just put it anywhere if people are gonna drive, do this. So there is a gravel parking lot out there, pretty substantial one that could serve those courts if they were out there. I asked them to reach out to the advocates for that, which he did. I think they were supportive of that location. The other variable, however, is that he had heard that the Y may be putting in. And the last thing we want to do is duplicate almost virtually right across the street what the Y is doing. So that was where we left our last discussion about it. He was going to get with Y and see if that is true, if they had immediate plans to do that, or if there was a way we could partner with the Y, put in the money that we were going to otherwise spend resurfacing the skating rink, and go along with whatever the Y is planning to spend, build a nice facility somewhere that serves both clients. That's the last I
Appreciate your investigation. I think it's being cornered at the city market and at First Fridays was enough for me, and
Yeah, and I guess I'm not thrilled about the idea of putting it at a Y. I think that, if we're gonna pay any kind of money, it needs to be in our jurisdiction for our citizens. What about West Park?
Well, it could be there, but I don't think there's any parking lot.
Angle parking around it. That park is never utilized, ever.
Take it out, Adrian.
Oh, dude. You walk everywhere. You walk every park.
Well, what about, I know I've had
A lot.
this discussion with a few different commissioners, but I like the spot of trying to utilize the parking lot for the baseball field at Riverside Park.
Well,
That might be the pool there.
So then,
Yeah,
yes,
that's
so
probably-
now you, and these two issues are intertwined. The most logical location for the new pool is where the parking lot is, Riverside Park. That's the only high ground out there. By now, the pool sits down in the water table right now, and that is a substantial disadvantage of the current site, along with trying to rebuild it in the off season. So our original thought was always, and unfortunately, the feasibility consultant hasn't given us a report yet that analyzes this, and Jeremiah's working on that with them. But our original thought was always that the most logical thing that was going to happen was that the pool would be replaced up on the hill where the parking lot is right now. That does beg the question of what happens with the area where the current pool is. Again, that's part of what the consultant.
I don't know how much that baseball field is used.
Yeah, we had that discussion, and its use is picking up, I understand. So it's not something that he felt, that Jeremiah felt we would want to get rid of.
How about any spot out behind the old Bixby Hospital?
Well, we don't own it.
Right, but maybe we can talk with Romantic.
But what about West Park? I like that idea. I'm just saying.
Well, if we can figure out the parking situation.
Well, yeah, we can have DPW stripe some angle parking. There we go. Right in the heart of that area, right by, wherever the pool's gonna be. somewhere.
I do like the idea of West Park.
It's like
because it
less
doesn't get
stuff to
used.
mow,
It
less
really
stuff to
doesn't.
maintain to a very underutilized park.
Right.
I mean, I would love to sell it, but we can't sell it. I mean, to a developer who wants to put housing there or something, but I think it's a great way to utilize that park, And And then Dusty's the one who told me about the why, about the pickleball courts. I go, well, then you got Mitchell Park here, the Y, and then Harris Park. That's silly, you know, so. And I asked, I asked Dusty about West Park. He goes, where's West Park?
Yeah, nobody knows where it's at.
He had no idea where it was. And then once I told him, I go, oh, yeah, that park. Nobody thinks about that park because it's not very utilized, but yeah, it's right there. I could see myself out there, a racket.
Yeah.
Well, and if we're having 4 courts built, how many people can play pickleball at one time and would be coming to watch? How much parking are we actually needing?
Wouldn't
for
need that much.
Oh, you need stadium seating. I don't know. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
And if there was an awful lot of people using it, they could go park at the baseball field. We just-
Yeah.
You want to have a
half block
tournament?
away.
You can walk down, it's a tournament, you know, you gotta walk Harris Park, if tournament Harris Park, you gotta walk a hill all the way down to the field. So, no, I like West Park.
I love that idea. I think that's a good idea.
Well, I just like,
I never see it. You're right.
Close to your house.
There's one.
yeah.
So I have something, and we have just a few minutes,
Yep.
I know. Sure. And I know we need to get some comments, so I mentioned to a couple of people, Bone Pool, I believe, is turning 50. Has anyone confirmed that? Does anyone know if Bone Pool for sure
I
is
have to show
turning
a big in the
50?
archive and find out.
Ooh,
Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
Right in that, there's a park.
So if it is, if that is the case, I think that it would be really nice if we celebrated
Yeah.
the 50th anniversary of the pool, and I had some thoughts on what we could do. One of them being, you know, if we get to a point where we have a consultant report that we can discuss with people, having an adult evening night where we would have tours of the pool, talk about what's good there, what's bad there, what are some options for either moving it or redoing it, how much the cost would be, and getting some feedback and maybe some buy-in from some people who may not even know that we're really looking at trying to keep this open for another 50 years.
I mean,
Yeah,
it's
Mr.
a,
Noss might know. He might know.
And even if it was 50 years last year, we could say, well, COVID, we could. That's how COVID's a good excuse still.
like I told Mary, I think it's a great idea. It highlights the history of the pool. She's done us great for half a century, I think, but now we
We need to do
need to
something.
do something. But given the history of it, and the tours and in the evening, I think that's a great way to show the community that we have to do something, and it kind of gets buy-in too, and I like the idea.
Yeah. And having maybe a special weekend where, everything, entrance is only 50 cents, doing 50 something or other, first 50 people that come get in free, whatever, I don't know.
Ball pool's near and dear to my heart. That was my recreation growing up. That's how I got started here.
I may or may not be almost
Government.
50, but I spent my entire life doing it.
So, and I know, with it just opening, this is coming late to the party. And I have to give credit to my children who all swim there for all those years. They were the ones who brought this to my attention. And then I've been on vacation a little bit, so a lot of time to deal with it. But yeah, so I would like to do something for it and get people more interested in the next.
I support it.
I think that's a great idea. I just want to mention one thing. I mentioned it to Greg. It's too early to start worrying about it, but in 3 years, we have our bicentennial for the city of Adrian.
Yep.
And planning for those events take more time than putting together something for the 50th anniversary. So a year from now, give ourselves a year and a half or 2 years to work on the planning for something really big.
Main Street is aware of that.
Back, they're not the whole city.
Yeah, I know, I'm telling you, but at least for that part, they are.
Who's where?
Main Street.
But lastly, can we get some guidance on the pickleball? 'Cause, man,
Yeah,
I'll take a look at West Park.
and I do want to say, the splash pad is being utilized. In
go by
fact,
today.
right away, Sunday morning, I get a message through social media and I'm like, why is this person messaging me? And they're like, are there hours? Why is it not on? I brought my kids here. And I'm like, is nobody there? And they're like, yeah, and I go, you have to activate it. You have to walk out. Like, you have to activate it. It's like this motion. And then she's like, thanks. And like, and then sent me a picture, and there were a lot of people out there. I think people didn't know they had to get it activated to get going, but it was being utilized. And then I had a meeting right by Parish Park yesterday afternoon, and there were a ton of children running through it and families out there, and Parish Park was alive and well and really happened yesterday afternoon. So it was really exciting to see.
The little girl told me that the big dumper scared her, but she didn't stop her from going in there. It just scared her. No.
Well, at this time, we will have public comment. Just to reiterate, there's a 3-minute time limit, and for the record, please state your name and address.
Hello, I'm Joaquin Ramos, 422 South Winter Street. I imagine you heard from me a bit, but so there's a couple things I'd like to say. One, I'm very happy to see the splash pad active and going. I was also at a meeting yesterday right by it and have been keeping up to date on it for, I think months now. I've been posting pictures about it. So very excited to see it up and running. My only real complaint is that the celebration was at like 9 a.m. So very few of us that are involved in the East Adrian could actually be there. But I'm very happy that it's open and people are able to enjoy it. And I've gotten to hear that funny story. It's good. I also would like to bring up, and I've heard a couple of people have some issues finding the food truck information. So if someone could talk to me later and give me an idea of how do you find the food truck information, I would like to know so that I can help these residents. And I said there's been a little bit of confusion there. And then I've complained about this before. I know it's not particularly high on your priority list, but I'm going to complain about it again. I still think the Dara line looks kind of silly. It wibbles and wobbles a whole bunch. I still think it looks a little silly, but I'm glad that it has been successful. I just think the line looks a little silly. Thank you. Oh, and that also cuts off in a weird corner, which I have spoken to I have sent you an email before, where you cannot actually stay within the Dara lines and cross the street because of the shape of the street and the Dara lines and where the walking is. You would have to go 2 blocks a different direction, one way or the other, to get across that street. But I've brought this up to you before. Oh, and I'll talk more in the next meeting, don't worry.
Brad Watson, 144 North Scott Street. My family does own a quadplex in town. I think there should be some consideration for those that have been in good standing for 40+ years of having a dumpster on the property instead of making them or having them charge them a surcharge or an additional charge related to that. I do also agree with Commissioner Heltz, the evaluation of West Park. I've drove around that a couple of times just to look at size and shape. I think there's plenty of space within that park to accommodate courts, but also to accommodate some parking facilities or to work with the structures that are in place for picnic facilities and arrangements. So I think if we start putting pieces on there, that could be a nice little pickleball facility.
Ashley Kovaskas, Frank, 141 and a half. I just had 2 things. One, I was wondering if the city was doing anything for Pride Month, because it is Pride Month. I haven't really seen anything acknowledged about it. And then I was downtown, well, I don't always downtown, but at the corner of Maumee and Main, the 2 big tents, and then onto what would be North Main is a seating area there. And as I was walking around for First Friday, I was wondering if that is still handicap accessible with that seating area encroaching towards the trees. There's like that opening area where the tree is planted and the seating area comes, I'm not sure what ADA access would need cleared there, but just making sure that businesses are leaving sidewalk space for handicap accessibility, just because the tents do take a lot of space and that seating area encroaching in towards the flower bed area just might not be accessible for someone in a wheelchair.
Somebody has their hand up. There's somebody on Zoom that has their hand up.
Yeah, Ken Tokars, 110 South Locust. I guess my concern with this whole trash thing is that we've had weeks to talk about it, and you guys have gotten into a contract, and now all of a sudden it's D-Day, and you're making changes. I mean, you have a government process where you go through procedures, you get public input, and I guess it's kind of sad that you're changing something at the last minute. The other part too with quadplexes, you have to look at, are there overhead wires? Is the sidewalk, I mean, you have to put in, if you have a garbage truck going in the back, you have to have thicker concrete. The other part too is I thought we weren't trying to be friendly to landlords because not all landlords are good landlords. So you might have a couple of good ones, but there could be several bad ones that are out there. Last thing would be in regards to the pickleball court, and I guess I'm going to ask the honorable mayor to respond to this, but I had asked you to put the pickleball courts in precincts 1 and 2, and your only objection the last time this came up was that you were going to have reduced costs because they were going to go into an existing area over at Riverside Park. Now that that's gone and you're looking at other locations, I want to know why you're not considering, somewhere in precinct 1 and 2, where we need to draw people to those areas. Thank you.
You just don't need it. So wait a second. Hearing no more public comment, may I get a motion to adjourn?
So,
All in favor, say aye. Aye. And it is currently 7:02, so we will begin the meeting out there at 7:10.
I kind of.
I call to order the Adrian City Commission meeting for June 6, 2022. If everyone would please rise for a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance. Roll call, please.
Mayor Heath,
Present.
Commissioner Hou,
present.
Commissioner Roberts,
Present.
Commissioner Miller,
Present.
Commissioner Strayer,
Present.
Commissioner Castleberry,
Present.
Commissioner Gauss,
Present.
all commission members present.
May I get a motion to amend the agenda under the consent agenda A, minutes? The date is wrong and it needs to read May 16th, 2022. And also to remove Y, which is listed on there as CR 22-069 or 59, sorry.
So move.
I have a motion from Commissioner Roberts with a second from Commissioner Castleberry. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Hou,
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Strayer,
Yes.
Commissioner Castleberry,
Yes.
Commissioner Gauss,
Yes.
Mayor Heath.
Yes.
The motion to amend the agenda to correct the date of the minutes to May 16th, 2022, and to remove item Y, CR 059 from the police department was approved by an all yes vote.
Moving on to the consent agenda, may I get a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
Move we adopt the consent agenda.
Support.
I have a motion from Commissioner Halt with a second from Commissioner Strayer. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Strayer.
Yes.
Commissioner Castleberry,
Yes.
Commissioner Gauss,
Yes.
Mayor Heath,
Yes.
Commissioner Halt.
Yes.
Consent agenda approved by unanimous vote.
Moving on to our regular agenda, under A, ordinances. Ordinance number 22-001 is a second reading and consideration of Articles 1 and 2 of Chapter 66, Solid Waste. May I get a motion to adopt the ordinance?
So moved.
Support.
Are there any public comments? Are there any commissioner comments? I have a motion from Commissioner Miller with a second from Commissioner Roberts. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Strayer,
Yes.
Commissioner Castleberry,
Yes.
Commissioner Gauss,
Yes.
Mayor Heath,
Yes.
Commissioner Halt,
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts.
Yes.
Ordinance adopted by unanimous vote.
Under resolutions, Resolution R 22-044 is from administration. It is a resolution to approve refuse and recycling collection fees for certain properties in the Adrian Downtown District. May I get a motion to adopt the resolution?
Move the adopted resolution.
Support.
Are there any public comments?
Ken Tokars, 110 South Locust. I would ask that the commission require the DDA to pay for dumpster enclosures, just like any resident would have to pay for a dumpster enclosure. Thank you.
Are there any commissioner comments? I have a motion from Commissioner Halt with a second from Commissioner Castleberry. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Strayer,
Yes.
Commissioner Castleberry,
Yes.
Commissioner Gauss,
Yes.
Mayor Heath,
Yes.
Commissioner Halt,
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller.
Yes.
Resolution adopted by unanimous vote.
Resolution R 22-045 is from the police. It is a resolution to approve a one-year renewal of the towing service contract with Neil's Towing. May I get a motion to adopt the resolution?
So moved.
Support.
Are there any public comments?
Good evening, Vince Emmerich, Chief of Police for the City of Adrian. Recently, I was given the responsibility of overseeing the towing contract. At the time, there were some questions and some deficiencies with the way it was being applied. I met with the owner, Mike Neal, and we have gone point by point through the contract and addressed those issues. One item remains, however, and that was mentioned in the memo. I did my best to explain there that it was essentially the way the RFP went out last year. There were things that were expressed verbally to some of the bidders that were not expressed to others. The RFP itself needed to be updated, and the language that was expressed to certain bidders was not written into that form and probably should have been. I tried, as I said, I tried to explain it. I see the owner, Mr. Raymond, is here from Affordable, and perhaps he can speak to that point. I am comfortable moving forward with Neil's for another year. But if it should be decided that that is rebid, then the RFP has already been rewritten with the help of Finance Department. We have that ready to go. I will be in the back if there's any questions.
Good evening. Mike Raymond from Affordable Towing and Auto Repair, owner, 958 East Beecher Street, Adrian. Affordable Towing has held the city contract from July 2012 to July 2021 at 958 East Beecher Street. In these years, we have always had office hours from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. with fully trained staff on hand. Secure storage lot in the same property in which was monitored daily with the towing personnel. Current contract is held by Neil's Towing. For the past 10 months, Neil's has not had an operational office at the 235 West Maple Street in which the contracted bid stated. For the past 10 months, Neil's has not had a fully trained staff in the 235 West Maple Street in which the contract states has to happen. For the past 10 months, Neil's has not been storing cars at the 235 West Maple Street per the contracted bid. Neil's has been storing cars at a Treat Highway location in Madison Township in which the lot is not secured due to the north fence not being there. Trucking companies entering and exiting the lot all day for concrete company that is there. The front gate is open most of the day. This is an unsecured lot and does not have staff personnel there daily from Neil's to ensure the securement of vehicles per the city contract. This past year, impounds and other vehicles have had catalytic converters stolen off the vehicles from that lot, and they were not reported to the city police as well. Neil's Towing is currently charging impound fees, a tow fee of $68, a labor charge to load the vehicle for $15, totaling $83 plus storage per vehicle. When Affordable Towing had the contract, we were charging $50 plus storage. Neil's Towing is doing accident fees at $68, a labor fee from $15 to $30, a cleanup fee of $15, with totaling $98 to $113 per invoice plus storage. Affordable Towing's price when I had the contract, $50 for the tow fee, $20 cleanup, totaling $70. Neil's has an average increase on accidents of $28 to $43, an increase on impounds of $33 per vehicle above Affordable Towing that held the contract from 2012 to 2021. In closing, commissioners and mayor, 1 year ago, you voted to save the citizens of Adrian money by awarding Neil's the contract, which the pricing appeared to be lower, but in reality, we can see that the prices are much higher than Affordable Towing. I'm asking you to reevaluate this bid contract for the following year. Thank you.
Hearing no more public comment, are there any commissioner comments?
I have a question for the police chief. It's my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the deficiencies that you noted a couple of weeks ago in an email to Mr. Neal's, those have been corrected. Is that the case?
That is correct, with the exception of one. I have spoken to Tanner's on Maple, and there's supposed to be a lease agreement in place. I'm still waiting for a copy of that. Everything else has been corrected.
Okay. And it's your recommendation that we approve a 1-year extension of the contract?
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, these corrections that you're saying have been made, is that going to justify the difference in price? Is that going to change anything?
One of the concerns is that, over the last year, obviously, there's been a lot of inflation, that if perhaps we bid it out now, that we might have increased numbers. Neil's is willing to lock in the same rate that he had bid the last time. The issue at hand is the way that items are billed, as Mr. Raymond described. For example, in our old form, there was a rate for the impound, there was a rate for a flatbed, there was a rate for labor. In previous years, that was verbally explained to the contracted party that they could only charge one of those. I can't fault Neil's for the way things are being charged, because when I look at that form, I say, yes, I towed a car. Yes, I used a flatbed, and yes, it took 2 people. So there is a difference in the way that things are billed now as opposed to what Mr. Raymond described.
So there probably won't be a difference in cost in short term.
It's hard to predict. In speaking with finance, we have rewritten the RFP model after several other cities. It bids by weight, and it bids a single rate dependent on the vehicle weight. And then there's a caveat at the bottom: any additional charges to be approved by city official prior to billing. So it removes that ambiguity that, okay, I can charge this, and this, when really, okay, the car weighs this much, this is what I can get.
But, so it's my understanding though, that the billings that you're receiving from Neil's is consistent with what the contract says.
Yes.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor.
Go ahead.
This is a difficult discussion to have because I think that today we're talking about this partially because of what was happening with city staff and turnover and things within our own means, and it's affected some city businesses. And that's unfortunate. And, but I think I would agree with Chief Emmerich that because it was a city issue that caused this discrepancy, and now it's come to light and we are going to correct it, that we need to make sure we're doing it right for our next bid. And for me, I think we need to allow Neil's to do it for one more year, make sure we have everything correct for our next bid process so that it is equal and everyone understands what they are bidding on and everything is above, not above board, but we all understand what page we're on. So that's where I'm coming from.
I totally agree with Commissioner Roberts. I think that when we did the contract last year, my position was that take the low bid and once the resolution is adopted, it's out of the city commission's hands. And I know Vince did his due diligence, but I don't want to see our citizens getting charged more than what they should. I mean that's no matter who has the contract. So some of the concerns Mr. Raymond brought up are valid and they're alarming to me. But I will say that I will agree with Commissioner Roberts again is that another year. But like I told Vince when we talked about this is that once the resolution adopted, I'm out. And it's whoever wins the contract. It's their job to abide by it every point of that contract. And if they don't, we're back to the drawing board. So I appreciate you doing your due diligence. But I don't want to see our residents paying more for a service than what we thought they were going to be paying, so giving them another year and then making sure that everything is in the contract is valid, I think is a smart way to go. But again, it's like, I want to see our citizens get the best bang for their buck. And who has the contract, that's less important to me than our citizens when it comes to that. So.
Hearing no more commissioner comments, I have a motion from Commissioner Gauss with a second from Commissioner Halt. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Castleberry.
Yes.
Commissioner Gauss.
Yes.
Mayor Hay.
Yes.
Commissioner Hou.
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts.
Yes.
Commissioner Miller.
Yes.
Commissioner Strayer.
Yes.
Resolution adopted by a unanimous vote.
Resolution R22-046 is from Utilities. It is a resolution to waive the competitive bid process and engage Northern Pump and Well of Lansing, Michigan in the city's standard professional services contract to perform repairs at well number 3. May I get a motion to adopt the resolution?
So moved.
Support.
Are there any public comments? Are there any commissioner comments? I have a motion from Commissioner Roberts with a second from Commissioner Strayer. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Gauss.
Yes.
Mayor Heath.
Yes.
Commissioner Hou.
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts.
Yes.
Commissioner Miller.
Yes.
Commissioner Strayer.
Yes.
Commissioner Castleberry.
Yes.
Resolution adopted by unanimous vote.
Resolution R22-047 is from administration. It is a resolution to amend mobile food vending fees. May I get a motion to adopt the resolution?
Move to adopt the resolution.
Support.
Are there any public comments?
J. Marks, Adrian, City Market Manager. Just as we talked in the
What's your
pre,
address?
4921 Hunt Road. Just as we talked in the pre-meeting, this is to modify the use, the fee just for use at the farmer's market and during First Friday. So it'd be one fee for both of those. The feedback that we've gotten from the mobile food vendors is that the fee is too much. So we're going to investigate it for a year. And when talking to some of the restaurants, we've seen no impact on them during the market and First Fridays.
Hearing no more public comment, are there any commissioner comments? I have a motion from Commissioner Strayer with a second from Commissioner Miller. Roll call, please.
Mayor Heath,
Yes.
Commissioner Hou,
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Strayer,
Yes.
Commissioner Castleberry. Yes. Commissioner Gauss.
Yes.
Resolution adopted by unanimous vote.
Resolution R 22-048 is from administration. It is a resolution to exercise eminent domain over property at 577 South Main. May I get a motion to adopt the resolution?
So moved. Support.
Are there any public comments? Are there any commissioner comments? I will say that this has been a very difficult decision, and I know that we've discussed it a few times in the pre-meeting, and nobody ever wants to do eminent domain, but for the safety of all of the residents, for the safety of that resident and that house that is possibly going to be in danger with the work that is being done. I just feel that it is necessary. I've listened to a lot of the public that are already concerned about the trail and have issues, and where there already are two walls that are built up between state and division, and there's already been a lot of problems over there. And the thought of huge walls being built up right there going into that tunnel in that area has them very concerned, and they would like a better sight line and better visibility and a safer environment. And so I am listening to the constituents that have reached out to me on this as I am voting on this today, but it was a very difficult decision. I have a motion from Commissioner Gauss with a second from Commissioner Strayer. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Hou,
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts,
No.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Strayer,
Yes.
Commissioner Castleberry,
Yes.
Commissioner Gauss,
Yes.
Mayor Heath.
Yes.
Resolution adopted by a 6 yes, 1 no vote.
Moving on to public comment. We will open this up, and just to remind you, there is a 3-minute time limit, and for the record, please state your name and address. We will begin in the city chambers first, and after all public comment has been heard, we will then open it up to all Zoom participants at that time. So we'll now begin.
Terry Collins, 11 Scott Court. This is for informational purposes. First, I want to give you a little history. I can get through it. June 29th of 1975, 3 individuals from Ohio had a big night of drinking, partying, smoking dope, decided to move themselves north into Michigan and find some easy money. They eventually robbed a gas station in Tecumseh, took an individual hostage, tried to flee. Adrian police officer Bobby Williams caught them on Beecher Street, M34. As a result of his stop, they fired 2 shots and killed Officer Williams. Bobby was a very good friend of mine. I was his training officer for a while. The reason I'm saying this is on Monday, June 13th at 10 a.m. at the intersection of M34, Beecher Road, Beecher Street, and Madison Heights. M34 is going to be designated as Bobby L. Williams Memorial Highway. There'll be a slight service there. Then there'll be a sign unveiling showing that that highway is being dedicated to Bobby L. Williams, one of your police officers. Thank you.
Hello, Keen Ramos, 422 South Winter Street. A little hard to follow that up. This will be a little bit lighter though. The splash pad looks great over there. I mentioned that a little bit before. I'm very happy to see the community engaging with it. And I've been watching it the whole way it's been coming along. The whole organization over there of A3 has been very excited watching it progress and seeing it now operational. And of course, we just want people to know that it is amazing and that we're very happy to have it in our community. I would also like to bring up that A3 will have their second Fridays on this Friday, and we welcome you to come on down. We plan to have a few partners there and to have you. Also, I'm sure most of you already know, a couple of you have attended after all, that Adrian ENP will be continuing to have their meetings for our June. So we will have one next Tuesday and then one like 2 Tuesdays after that. And we'll be continuing to get some insight from the residents of and organizations of what do we do to bring to revitalize East Adrian and to bring services that the residents there both need and actually want to engage with. And of course, with A3 as one of the prime partners, I am very much part of that, and I am happy to talk about it a little bit. And if you want to know more information about that, I will be happy to help direct you to the one currently leading it, Frank. And that is all I have for you now. I'm sure you'll hear from me again very soon.
Good evening. My name is William Pemberton. I'm Executive Director of the River Raisin Ragtime Review. We're working with Planewave Instruments to make 1375 North Main on the Planewave campus our permanent home. And I wanted to do two things tonight. I wanted to thank you for approving our request for fireworks to end our first really big show there Saturday, July 9th on campus. It's going to make a big difference. It's going to be a program of really great American music. And I think having the program go out to the Stars and Stripes in a full fireworks display is going to be huge. And I think it's going to bring a lot of people to the campus to see this project that we're undertaking to restore the old chapel on the grounds there into Haviland Hall. The second thing I wanted to do is personally invite you all to come out. I really think you'll be impressed with the programming there. I'm sure most of you have visited the campus already. It continues to expand. The people at Planewave have been incredible to us and our neighbors, and I really hope to see you there. Thank you for your help.
At this time, we will open up public comment for the Zoom participants. You will see your time on the screen, and please state your name and address for the record, please, as well. Hearing no public comment, I will now open it up for commissioner comments. Hearing no commissioner comments, may I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner Halt with a second from Commissioner Castleberry and Commissioner Miller. All in favor, say aye. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.